Hello, everybody. Welcome to the United Stand. It's the Sunday night show. I've got Beth and I've got Ricky with me. How are we doing?
Fine, thanks, mate.
Well, thank you. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, we're going to get into this straight away, actually. Obviously, I think we're all aware that Man City have won 4-1. We're all aware that Manchester United blew it last night. And that's the situation that we find ourselves in, unfortunately. I just want to get straight into it because there's a lot I want to talk about. You know, what we're going to do with Pogba now injured, what we do in the Cup, what we're going to do with Van der Beek, what Ollie's doing around substitutions, what we're going to do to stop Man City potentially winning a treble, because I think that they're looking very good about that. It'd be interesting, wouldn't it? Liverpool hadn't won a title in 30 years. Ollie takes over and Liverpool win a title. Year 2, Man City win a treble. I mean, you don't want to be the manager that allows those things to happen. But on a serious note, the title for me is gone. Maybe you two think something different. The first question I want to pose to everybody is, and we'll start off with you, Ricky, this week, is there any regrets that, considering we were top of the league in January and now Man City are 8 points ahead of us if they clear the league? Do you can catch them? And if we can't, do you think there should be any regrets from the club, Solskjaer, the players, as to how this has come about?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. Well, first of all, the defeat against Sheffield United, he took it too easily. I noticed against Southampton the other night, obviously we didn't know they were going to get a man sent off and be down to 10 men in the first minute or whatever. But against Southampton, he went with his strongest back four, and I'm a stickler for that. I'm a great believer in it. And I'm also a bit fed up of hearing people say he's learning on the job. I mean, he's an ex-professional footballer who's won the treble, who's done this, he's done that, he's done the other. I was an electrician. I knew that he should have subbed Fred, and thousands of people on Twitter were saying he should have subbed Fred even before he got sent off. Get him off. He's got to come off.
Still thinking about that, Ricky.
He should have subbed Fred against Leipzig, and now I was saying when before that ball was played, before we kicked off, and look, this is hindsight. Before we played against Sheffield United, I said, I don't like it that he's made 2 changes. Lindelof might have needed a rest. But when you're running a football team, if one of your back four's missing, you definitely don't change another one just for the hell of it. You're changing 50% of your back four. You just don't do it. Get your back four solid and keep it the same as often as you can, and get the points in the bag that are in front of you. And we might have won that game. We'll never know now, but it just changes everything. We might have won that game if he'd have gone with his best back four for that game. Probably Lindelof was fit as well. I mean, Tuanzebe, was it Tuanzebe that played that night? I think it was. Maybe he could have played his full back four that night. We probably would have won. We'll never know. So learning on the job doesn't cut it for me. It was obvious to me before we kicked off against Sheffield United he shouldn't have been doing it. It was obvious to me against Leipzig, was it Leipzig or PSG? PSG, that he should have took Fred off before he got sent off. So, it's not a good enough answer that he's learning on the job. He needs to do better.
Lots to get into tonight. I'll come to you on Beth then. I mean, Ricky's picked up on there, and the first question for everybody who's a little bit late is, should we have some regrets about this? I mean, a month ago, we were top of the league. We were in a title race with Liverpool. Tonight, if Man City win their game in hand, which obviously they will, they're 8 points clear. Ricky's mentioned the Sheffield United result. 3 points there, 2 points last night. That's 5 points that we really, maybe Arsenal, and everyone mentions the top 6 sides where we maybe play a bit defensive. But if we beat Sheffield United, like Ricky says, and we hold on to that in the last 10 seconds last night, we've got 5 more points. We're not 8 points off City, we're 3, and we've got them to play. I'm sure Solskjaer probably will have some regrets. Do you put it on him, or do you think there's other reasons as to why we've dropped these points? Do you put it on the players? Do you put it on the board? Do you put it on Solskjaer? Should we have regrets? We're second in the league.
I think all 3 of them should have regrets. I think the board should have regrets for not going and buying Ollie a centre-half in January. I think the players should have regrets from the way that they let soft goals be conceded the way that they have. I mean, I know we've not got the best centre-back pairing, but still, players of that quality should not be letting the goals that we concede happen. And I also think Ollie's to blame, because I think, I've said this before, I don't think his in-game management is very good. I don't think he can read a game very well and change it in order to kind of see the result out. It's okay coming back from when we concede, but when we have the goals, we always concede them. And I don't think he very manages the game well, especially late on. he doesn't really make subs. And then also, I think he played it too safe against the top 6 sides. I think he should have gone out there to try and win the games instead of going for a draw. And we've lost points there as well. I think we could definitely be closer to City than what we are. But if you look at City tonight and look at us, there's a massive, massive difference. And they do deserve to be higher than us. They've got more free-flowing football and their defence is solid and ours is not. And that's the be-all and end-all of it.
I agree with Beth on that, Ricky. Just to come back to you, I mean, look, sour grapes, pissed off. This is what we should be as United fans. We should not be happy with this situation. But, you know, money. And look, I'm the first one to say that Man City are just soulless and it's all about money. That it is. I know where Man City were 20 years ago. Unlike their first team, I know who Sean Goater is. But the reality is they have spent money, but they've spent it well. They've spent it very, very well. And they've built a team. And I look at Foden today and I think, God, what Pep's doing with him. And, you know, Sterling used to play for Liverpool. He's a very different player at Man City. So they have spent money, but they've spent it very, very well. Whereas I think we haven't spent enough. And when we haven't spent it well enough. But I did see something today. And look, I think City deserve to win the league. And I can't move away from that. But what I do say is that this league should not have been given up as quick as this. And I think I heard Carragher say it, and I think some other people have said it with United. It's almost like they were happy to be there in first place. There was never really, you talk about that Sheffield United result, you talk about last night, you know, the part of the team delivers, but part of it doesn't. If we are to hold on to second place and we are to, you know, maybe build on this, do you think it is a new dawn, or do you think there are still big issues in that team? And if so, what they are?
I think there's big issues, yeah. I mean, Mark, I've covered this before. I don't think some of the players are as great as other people think they are. And when you watch Foden tonight, surely that must give you an inkling that we think some of our players are better than they. Look, some people regard some of our, I won't name names, as being world class. If they're world class, what's Phil Foden when you watch him waltzing around players and smashing it in like a, you know, like an exercise? You know what I mean? We've not got players that can play like that. We really haven't. So
I think Mason Greenwood's not far off that.
I think we do, but I just don't think they're playing to the best of their ability.
Did you see? I take it you watched that game tonight, the City game. I know
Yeah.
City. And Graham Souness touched on it, and I'd already thought it myself and spotted it when he cut inside Phil Foden. The touch that he takes with the outside of his foot, and without taking another stride, he strikes the ball. It's absolutely unbelievable quality. It really is. He takes a little touch, and without striding, it's just in his stride, and he smashes it. And the keeper's not got a chance. I know that some are saying the keeper should have done better. It's like a rocket. It reminded me of Bobby Charlton. You know what I mean? Just unbelievable. So we look. It's as simple as that. We've got. I think we've got bigger problems than most people realise when you look at other players, other clubs. Look, we're in the Europa League at the end of the day, aren't we? We're not even in the Champions League.
Yeah, but if you think about it, we've scored the most. I don't know about City, have got a few games in hand. We've scored the most goals in the league, but our defensive record is shambolic. So I don't think our attacking players are the ones at fault, really. I do think we should score more of our chances. I do agree with you on that. But at the same time, we can see too many goals. Like to concede 3 goals at home yesterday and still not win the match. It's embarrassing of a United defence, I think.
Well, I just see that from Marco. Ollie's not getting the best out of the players. I mean, I would throw this into the equation. I think that Ollie is getting the best out of the players. He's probably getting the limit out of a lot of these players, because I think we need 2 or 3 players just to compete for the title or the top 2 next season, which we might get top 2 this year because Liverpool have just collapsed beyond all recognition. But you know, I look at that Sheffield United result and I think he played the right team. I just think 9 of the players played total trash. I put that result on the players, and I look at last night and I think 2-0 up at half time, 3-2 with 10 seconds to go, and the same players cost us 3 points, and those 5 points would put us back into within touching distance of Man City. And all I wanted to do at the start of March was have a game against Man City with a chance. And I think that, you know, these are the fine margins that these players, Ollie talks about fine margins a lot, but these are the fine margins that these players need to learn. You drop off for 10 seconds, you don't do your job for 5 seconds, and you're out of a title race at this level. I mean, you've mentioned that before, Ricky. Man City and Liverpool, they're 100 points teams normally, aren't they? You just cannot afford to switch off the way we've switched off recently.
Yeah, I think somebody's already said, I don't mean tonight, but it's been said numerous times, I think, that this season was our chance. I did say pre-season that we would have a chance of getting to an amount of points that would normally win the league. But it's just that in the last couple of seasons, City and Liverpool, both of them in the same season, one season, didn't they both get 95 or 98 points?
Yeah.
They're getting an astronomical amount of points. And this season was our chance. The way City are looking now, because they had a blip, didn't they? But the way they're looking now, I can imagine them getting 95 points again next season. Do you know what I mean? So I think
to get Messi as well, bloody hell.
All they need is a striker, and their team is literally set. Like, it's worrying. If they had a proper striker in their team, it's actually worrying the things that they'll be able to go on and do.
Well, if they get Messi, they probably won't get a striker. They'll just play that false nine shit again, won't they? And they'll just kill everyone. They will. I mean, look, there's lots and lots to talk about. I personally think we're having a really good season. I just think I do agree with what Ricky said, and we've spoken about it a lot, and I'm sure a lot of people in the chat does, that we were top of the league in January. And I agree with what, I think it was Carragher said it. I've heard somebody say it. I do agree with it. I think United got to a position where they should have stayed in a title race for a lot longer than they have been. And some people think we are still in one. I'm not saying that we're not, but we're not winning the title. I'll be stunned if we do. But I just think we got top of the league, and it was like pat ourselves on the back time. And the result that proved that was Sheffield United. Like you said, Ricky, that was the game where it's not like if you go and lose, if that had been Man City and you lose 4-0 and you go, shit, we're not in a title race really. But we let it go against Sheffield United and last night, and they're not that to me is there's still something really missing in that team. And this is where I want to go with it next, actually, because Harry Maguire's the captain. I put the blame on him last night squarely because I think as the captain of the team, you've got to take some responsibility. But as an individual, I think on 2 goals, it was shocking. Some people are saying it's time to get rid of De Gea out of the team. Where are you on that? We'll start with you and Beth at the moment. Where are you on this? Because, for me, it was very, very clear. But is it now time to take players out of the team? There are certain positions that we do have backup in.
Me, you go to me. I thought you said Beth. I think it's I think it's time to give 1 or 2 people a run out in the team. Definitely. We've got two top keepers. De Gea has been fantastic over the years. To me, he didn't look quite on his toes. Some people have said bravery. I'm not sure whether it's bravery, whether he's just not quite sharp enough. He could have come out to do better with Calvert-Lewin's goal. It was a bit flimsy, his attempt to save Calvert-Lewin's cross, that led to the first goal. But I do feel a bit sorry for players who do make a mistake when people are getting in. It's all sorts of mistakes that leads to these things. Do you know what I mean? And I do think that it could have been cut out before that. I know you want him to do better, but at the same time, he's entitled to say how's it got to that position in the first place. Do you know what I mean? I just.
Well, why are we just on that, Ricky? Why are we doing this as a fan base? Why are we wanting De Gea out the team? He's had a really good season, and even if he did make mistakes yesterday, which I would argue the one-on-one Calvert-Lewin's one-on-one, the advantage is definitely with the striker, and it's Harry Maguire's fault that he's one-on-one. So for me, the blame's with Harry Maguire. But I've just watched a game tonight where Alisson, I mean, they're keeping errors. Those two,
those are proper keeping errors.
They're proper keeping errors, and yet Alisson will play in the next game because Klopp trusts him. And to be fair, De Gea this season, I saw a paper today saying now's the time. It's now the time to get rid of De Gea, and I was like, hold on a minute. And then they're starting to quote mistakes from last season. And I'm like, yeah, this is the look, whatever about last night. If people want to give Henderson a chance, that's fine. But there's no way Alisson's out the team in Liverpool's next game. They're proper keeping errors. And for me, De Gea has been good this season. I just think it's an overreaction.
Yeah, it probably is an overreaction. Like I've just said, it's not just down to him that we dropped the 2 points. When you drop the 2 points as well, I've said this about when we speak about doing a player rating straight after the game. Everybody's heated out. That should have happened and this shouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? And you need to calm down for 24 hours and watch it again and then have a little think about it. But without any shadow of a doubt, the keeper is entitled to expect better protection than that, even if he should have done a bit better.
Yeah,
I don't necessarily agree that he's had that good of a season, De Gea. I think he's had a better season than he has last year. But as Roy Keane said, it's his job to save goals. And he has been doing that. He's been making some good saves. But from stats I've seen, I think he's got quite a low save rate from outside the box. I don't think he comes and makes himself big quick enough. I don't think he's off his line quick enough. And I don't think he's commanding enough offset pieces for a top goalkeeper. Don't get me wrong. I love De Gea and he's been class for us over the years. But when you've got Henderson on the bench, have you seen how much Sheffield United have dropped this season? I'm not saying it's all down to him, but he's not really been given much of a chance. And he's a modern day keeper that can be off his line, be off.
He's been given his chance. It's been pretty crap, hasn't he? I mean, he nearly cost us points at Sheffield United. So.
He's not really had a run of games. And I think as well, I do think De Gea has cost us games. Like sometimes when he passes it out from the back, it's so unassured and he just doesn't get it away quick enough. Fair play, he's playing with Maguire and Lindelof, who he probably doesn't have faith in anyway. So it's a lot hard for a keeper when you've not got faith in your centre halves. But I don't think he's necessarily been that good this season. I think he's had an all right season, better than last season, but I don't think he's been world class. Whereas I think Alisson's been world class for a long time. Do you know what I mean? So he's obviously going to get cleared out of mistakes more than he would do.
I can't. If you can tell me a game or a goal that De Gea has directly cost us this season,
yes,
then I will listen up. Because the one where he was beaten in the air was actually a foul against Sheffield United, as the referee association has confirmed. So I heard a lot of people saying he's not commanding in the box, but I can't think of a goal that's his fault. I can't this season.
Can I come in?
And it's Sheffield United. He should have got the ball away quicker.
Which one was that?
Henderson. You're on about there. Did you say?
I'm on about De Gea right now.
The one against Sheffield United that was given and should have been disallowed. I'm fed up of hearing pundits saying he needs to be stronger there.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, Beth won't remember this. I don't even know if you'll remember it, Mark. Obviously, you remember the hand of God.
Oh, yeah.
I remember people saying Shilton should have come out and took the lot. What you do not expect when you're going for the ball, in that case with Shilton, he's going for the ball and he's looking at the ball and he knows where the ball's coming. There's nothing he can do whatsoever about a player putting his hand up and flicking it away. You can't expect that. And even if you do expect that, you expect a referee to give the free kick. So there's nothing you can do about it whatsoever. To criticise Shilton at that time was ridiculous. Now bringing that forward to De Gea, when you jump for a ball and you're about to catch it, when you're standing still on the ground, if you're a big lad, which he obviously is, well, any lad, but a big lad, he's standing there. You can use your weight, you can use your strength, you can use your strength in your legs. You can set yourself, and you're difficult to shift. If you get pushed over, then that's fair enough to say, look, you need to be stronger there. But once you jump, which he has jumped, he's in the air. You're basically weightless. You're basically weightless. If you jump and somebody pushes you in the back, and I've heard people saying he should have been stronger, there's absolutely nothing whatsoever he can do about it. He got pushed in the back and it took him underneath the ball. And when you jump, you are weightless. You can't do anything about it whatsoever.
I just don't think it's the time to. I don't disagree with what you're saying, Beth, because there's a lot of people in the live comments that are saying it. But again, we've been pulled into this chat about dropping De Gea, and as I said, for me, the biggest problem with that team is the centre-back partnership, and that's what cost us the game. I mean, look, the one where De Gea pushes it out, everyone's talking about that, but that as a centre-back, Harry Maguire's watching that pass, waiting for it, and he's also looking at Calvert-Lewin, and he does neither. He doesn't play an offside line, he doesn't intercept the pass, and then Calvert-Lewin's in, and yeah, De Gea probably should do better with that cross, but Calvert-Lewin's already in a position for a cutback, and I think wherever there's blame, a little bit of blame for De Gea last night, there's huge blame for Harry Maguire, and he's the player that should be getting the bloody stick because he's the captain. I think it's all of them combined. I do think De Gea puts his team under pressure with that first goal by just palming it back into Decore's thing, and it gives path and it gives Everton momentum them on. And obviously, because we've seen De Gea make these mistakes before, it kind of, you get in a tricky situation with him because he can pull off a world-class save, but he can also make howlers. And you're like, how have you just done that? So I just think, what is the point of Dean Henderson being at United right now? He's a young. Surely, if you want to drop De Gea, you've got to be saying, let's drop Harry Maguire for someone on Tuesday.
Well, yeah, but we don't have anyone.
Well, this is why we're not going to progress then, isn't it? Because we can change the goalkeeper that I don't think we need to, but I'll bow down to what people are saying. But the prats in front of him are still there, and I tell you what, if you're a goalkeeper and you've got two centre backs like that in front of you, it's not a good environment for a young goalkeeper to try and build a future.
This is our problem, though. Maguire's our best fit centre back, and he's nowhere near the level that we need. And he's the captain of the club. This is a problem, and we've said it over and over again. How can Maguire go into that dressing room yesterday and lift his teammates up when the defence was at fault for the goals? I just don't think the mentality is there. I think we need a Cavani version of a centre back to come in and be a senior dominant pro at the back and really take charge, because I think Cavani's really worked wonders coming in as a signing for in an attacking sense, but we need some leadership and some experience at the back. I really think we do.
Obviously Bruno Cavani delivered yesterday, Ricky. Pogba went off. It's interesting because you talk about player ratings. I saw in the Manchester Evening News that they gave Pogba a 5, and they basically justified by saying that they could hear Solskjaer shouting at Pogba to move the ball quicker. I actually think at the point he was taken off, he was running that midfield, and I think he was a massive loss when he went off. But he is a massive loss. I think he'll probably be out for anywhere between 2 and 6 weeks, which means even in 2 weeks we've got 4 games that he'll miss. What do we do in that midfield area now? Because I don't know what your thought was about the midfield. We've spoken about the defence. I don't know what your thought about was the midfield, because obviously Everton played a diamond, but with no Pogba and the options are, there are 4 players. How would you construct that midfield now?
The thing is, obviously Pogba doesn't always play in central midfield for us. McTominay and Fred, nearly always start in the big games. I know he didn't start the other day, but I was expecting McTominay and Fred to start the other night, weren't you? I was expecting yeah. So McTominay and Fred normally start there. Now Pogba, whether we play a diamond or whether when we're supposed to play a diamond against against Arsenal, it ended up in 4-4-2 really, with Pogba on the left. Against City, we played a proper 4-4-2 with Greenwood on one flank and Pogba on the other. So although he plays a lot, he hasn't got a set position. Against Liverpool, he started wide on the right when we got a point at Anfield. So to sort of say how you're going to do it, it's not really the right question. You could say that about Bruno because he always plays at number 10. You could say that about Maguire because he always plays at Shaw because he always plays at left back. How are we going to do it? But when you've got a player who's playing in all different roles in the team, and he doesn't start every single game, he has the odd rest, and then when he does start, you can't predict what position he's going to play in. So I don't think it's a valid question, Mark, to be honest. He doesn't always play anyway in the same position. I mean, so. In other words, for example, you'd normally expect McTominay and Fred to start. Not that they'd be my first choice. You'd normally expect McTominay and Fred to start. You'd normally expect Bruno to start. You'd normally expect Cavani to start. That's 4 players. So then you've only got the 2 wide berths unless you're going to play a diamond. So for the 2 wide berths, Pogba played left and right recently. Martial can play left. Greenwood can play right. Rashford plays both sides. So to answer your question, really, the players who are going to get more games with Pogba missing, not really McTominay and Fred, not really Bruno or Cavani, it's Rashford. I mean, Rashford plays anyway, but Rashford, Martial, Greenwood. Who else did I say? I'm sure there's one other. Dan James even might start getting. Sounds daft, doesn't it? Dan James for Pogba, but it's true. He plays wide for us so often. So we've got lots of players who are dying for the game. That's not including Van der Beek, by the way, because we never use him wide.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky's right there, Beth, to be fair. It's, Pogba has played all over the place. But having said that, he was voted Man United Player of the Month for January. And I think since that Riola out thing, he's definitely been, integral. He's going to be out for a while. Does it worry you? Sorry, Ricky.
Mark, I'm not saying he's not played well in all those positions.
No, you're talking about the position, aren't you?
All I'm saying is to ask the question, how are we going to manage without such and such a player? I believe that should only be asked of a player who plays every week in the same position. Because you don't know if he's going to play on the left wing on Sunday. You don't know if he's going to play on the right wing. You don't know if he's going to play central midfield. So how can you sort of say how we're going to manage without him? That's
well. As a retort, I would say that Paul Pogba is in that category of a Bruno, of a Cavani. He's in that. There's three players. Luke Shaw. He's in the category of consistent quality over the last 6 weeks.
All the players you mentioned all start in the same position every week. There's a big difference. But
but what I'm saying is he's a big player for Manchester United, and he's a consistent player. And wherever he plays, he has been doing quite well, and he's been a bit of a match winner. If you look about Fulham, do you not think he's going to be? Look, go Beth. But do you think he's going to be a loss, Beth? And how do we cope with that? And then Ricky can come back if he wants.
I think he's going to be a massive loss. I think since the real incident, he's been nothing but a pro. I think he's obviously got that winning mentality now. He's a leader. He's been playing really good football, back to his best, everyone would say. I think we'll miss his intelligent passes. I think we'll miss his defensive work, because I think his defensive work has been kind of overlooked. I think it's been brilliant the last few weeks. His physicality, his height, everything he brings to the game. And he is a World Cup winner. He's got that mentality. And I do think he just gives you that individual brilliance, as we've seen at West Ham. Was it Burnley scored the goal as well? That we're going to, I'm not being sly, but maybe McTominay, but Fred definitely can't do that. Do you know what I mean? So we're going to miss his class, definitely. But I just hope he's not out for too long, because I do think if you're going on to keep pushing for City, he's a massive factor in that team. He is, because without him in that midfield, I think only Bruno's giving you that creativity, really.
What do you think about the rest of the season, Ricky? Because we are in second place at the moment. Man City, you might agree with me. I think they're going to win the title, but we do have a situation at whereby Liverpool, if Chelsea win, which it looks like they're going to do, they're only a point ahead of Chelsea. It's very congested, about 4 points behind where we are. We've got a little bit of a cushion at the moment. Are you confident going into 16, 15 games left with the squad that we've got? That will be all right. Europa League's about to kick in a couple of weeks. We've seen, and the reason I asked that is that Ollie doesn't seem to want to make subs. He's one of the only managers I've ever seen. And I watched Man City Liverpool today, and 20 minutes to go, Klopp was happy to make 2 subs, even though it weakened his first 11, because you're always weakening your first 11, aren't you? Because that's the team you want to start. He understands that fresh legs are important. Solskjaer doesn't seem to do that. Is that a concern going into the rest of the season that, will he have a Europa League team? Should he prioritise the Europa League? We could get pulled into a battle for top 4 still. This season could still have twists and turns in it.
It could definitely have twists and turns in it. And I do agree with you about his substitution style. I think it's really poor. I've said before that I think he overrates some of his starters and he underrates some of his subs. It's like you've just mentioned, Klopp there, bringing players on. I mean, look, that's Shaqiri who he signed from Stoke. I don't rate him one little bit, but he's got no qualms about bringing him on. We've got better players than Shaqiri. Look, at the end of the day, I hope I'm wrong here. I still imagine, look, Liverpool, they've only got to switch into gear. They'll probably finish above us in the league. I think they might still do that. But he's not worried about bringing these players in. And I think we've got better players than that on the bench. We're worried about using them.
I don't think Liverpool's squad depth's actually that good at all. But
I saw the benches today, and I said it. I don't know whether anyone agrees. I looked at both their benches, Man City and Liverpool, and I went, we've got a better bench. Chelsea have got a better bench, and Spurs have got a better bench, but they've got a better coach and a better first team.
The thing is I know I've said I don't think Dan James is a starter for us, but it's a substitution for that injection of pace. His defensive work as well, the way he can get in behind when Rashford's not on his game. Why aren't you making that sub? When you need to retain possession towards the end of a match, we know Van der Beek's really good at that. Why aren't you making that sub? It's not as if it's League One players on the bench. You've got international players on the bench, and he just refuses to use them.
I think you made a great point there, Beth. And if you cast your mind back, you'll remember this, Mark. When we had a terrible start to the season, and straight after the first international break, we played Newcastle away, and then we played Chelsea at home, and we've been letting goals in for fun. 6 in against Spurs, 3 against Crystal Palace, 2 against Brighton, although it should have been a lot more. That was our first 10 games. And I said to you, he needs to put Juan Mata on one wing and Dan James on the other to keep the shape right. We beat Newcastle 4-1. We drew 0-0 with Chelsea. Okay, not fantastic 0-0, but at least it's 0-0 with Chelsea. But the manager the manager seems to have forgotten that was what he used to get those results when he wanted to put the barriers up, having let an average of about 4 goals a game in for 3 games. That's what he used. So why doesn't he think that when you're winning 3-2 with 10 minutes to go? Why don't he think, right, I'll do what why don't he put those barriers up again? Put the players on in the wide berths who are not proper attacking players. Greenwood and Rashford are proper attacking players. Put more defensive players on when you're leading 3-2 in those positions, though. Not an extra defender like he did, but players who play those positions, but play them with a defensive mindset rather than an attacking mindset. When we played City at Old Trafford, he had Greenwood on one flank, Pogba on the other. But it was obviously, if you watch that game back, it was obviously drilled into Greenwood. He hardly went out of our half. You know what I mean? It was drilled into Greenwood that day. And then when we played Liverpool at Anfield, he used Pogba wide on the right. He used Martial wide on the left. Martial's, I've seen it on the TV. Martial's average position in that game, like they do the average position, he's only a yard in front of Luke Shaw. 1 yard. It was his, he played like a second left back. So this is what you do. You've got to stop them. If you think where the goals come from, a free kick down from the wing, we need more players in these areas. And he's used it to stop teams, but then doesn't use it when you're 3-2 up with 15 minutes to go.
I also think as well, when I watched like City, Liverpool, even Aston Villa, I saw Jack Grealish defending on the corner of his own box. He constantly is getting back, and he's a left winger. You've got your back four. Lindelof and Maguire usually sit quite deep because obviously they're quite slow. Then you've got McFred, who sits in front of them, and then Bruno, Rashford, and Greenwood and also Cavani kind of press. And then sometimes the press isn't that great. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It's a little bit out of sync. And you've got all that space in behind. And then if they get the ball into that space, they've got so much space to play it through our players and get onto Lindelof and Maguire so quickly that you've genuinely not got enough players back to defend the ball. And I was watching Ricky's friendly, and it actually did open my eyes. I promise you this, I genuinely do think Ollie seriously needs to work on he needs to kind of, how Pep and Klopp have a certain style and a way they play, and every single player is well drilled. Every single player in that team needs to be well drilled. Sometimes it feels like a little bit of a free-for-all, whereas when we've not got the ball, we do need to try and win it back. And when we've got the ball, we've got to run into the space to try and retain possession, because we're woefully retaining possession. And then when we're pressing, we're leaving so much space behind that they can just get onto us straight away. And I think they're two massive weaknesses that we need to work on as a team, and Ollie needs to work on as a coach.
We're struggling big time, aren't we, Beth? We're terrible at the back, you just said. We're terrible at retaining possession, and we can't press. What hope have we got?
We can score a few good goals, Ricky.
I think that
it's all right.
I think we're doing really well, and I think the fact that we're disappointed because we've handed the title to City. Well, we haven't handed the title to City. I think we're overachieving. I thought we'd struggle to get top 4 this year, and I think most of it comes down to the board not getting in the players, and we've seen that at centre back, and we've seen it at times in relation to creativity. Although yesterday the attack won us the game and the defence lost us the game. But going back to what you said at the start, Ricky, about him being a work in progress, whether that's right or wrong. I said this after the Wolves game when Rashford won it at the end. I said it in the match reaction. I said, I'm over the moon that we've won it, but he's kept the same 11 on the pitch. He's not, I think he might have made a sub really late on in that game, but he certainly didn't do it around the 70 minutes, 80 minutes mark when we were struggling. And I'm like, I've said it when we've won. For me, this is why he's a work in progress, because I can't understand. And you've hit the nail on the head yourself, Ricky, by saying he overrates some people, in your opinion, and underrates people on the bench. To me, I don't care whether you're Brighton, Man City. You look across the Premier League this weekend, just look at every game, click onto the score and look at the subs and have a look at how many subs were made between 65 and 80 minutes. And I'll guarantee you, on average, every team in the Premier League has made over 2. And yet we don't do it. And I'm like, he's not onto anything here. This is not, he's not done a bloody Pep and figured out a new way of playing football, because there's no advantage to keep 90 minutes of players on the pitch when other people are bringing 2 or 3 fresh legs on. And there's something, it's a bit like when we were zonal marking at the start of the season. We still do it now, and we're giving a lot of goals up. He's obviously worked on that because we're not as much now. But this whole keeping your players on the pitch for 80, 90 minutes, it can only be a lack of trust in the bench. I mean, maybe I'm right. I don't know what people in the comments think. I don't know what you think on that, Ricky. But this is what I mean about a work in progress, because he's got to trust. To become a good manager, you've got to trust your bench. Otherwise, there's no point in having a bench.
Yeah, you've got to trust your bench. But look, when you're working your way up, you might work at clubs like Ollie's works at clubs where the quality of his bench might be really, really poor at certain clubs. No disrespect to him, but he's managed at Mulder and he's managed at Cardiff City. But it may be that he might think when he looks at his squad when he's at those clubs that he's only got 14 decent players and the rest are making the numbers up. And then if 2 or 3 of those players are injured, he's only got 11 decent players and the rest of the subs are all making the numbers up. You can't think like that when you're the manager of Man United. You cannot think like that.
Well, Dan James is making the numbers up. Apart from one. No, but seriously, apart from the 10 minutes he gave him against Southampton when we were like 20-0 up, he would never use him in a game. I think you see the trust of your subs when it's tight and you need to change something, and he very rarely makes a change when it's tight.
He was a sub though. That's what I don't understand. He was that super sub, and he doesn't. You would have thought he'd kind of have his own version of that, and he just
obviously he thinks he was a good sub, and he looks at the bench and he goes, "There's no one good enough as me."
But then he comes out and says, "Oh, I've got too many players." Do you know what I mean? It's hard to leave people at home. And then I think the goal that Rashford scored at Wolves in the last minutes is an example of, I think it eggs Ollie on to keep the players on for that long, because I generally think he believes and trusts in them to have that moment of brilliance where he probably doesn't believe in Dan James or other players on the bench to do that for him. And the thing is, if you're not using your bench, it just shows, like, do you need more depth? Did you sign Van der Beek for no reason? Like, what's going on?
I think in this season as well, though, whether you don't rate your bench or not, players are playing so many games that I think in any season you've got to be looking to make 2 or 3 subs on the 70-minute mark. But in this season, you've got to do it because players are getting tired. I mean, again, I thought Rashford was a bit in and out of the game yesterday, and some people went in on him. I don't think he was terrible. I think he could have had a better game, but again, he probably could have been hooked off for somebody like Martial. You're not chucking Dan James on, you're chucking Anthony Martial on, who scored 2 goals and got an assist midweek. Rashford was a bit in and out of the game. 20 minutes to go, off you come, put Martial on. It's not, you can't turn around and go, I don't trust you. He was player of the year last year.
He'll never sub Rashford though, and Greenwood was having a really, really good game. So what are you going to do in that situation? You just won't. He literally will not sub Rashford unless it's, for example, 9-0. Do you know what I mean?
You know what Ollie is? He's the guy who, when he's playing Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it's like, I've got 100 grand, I'll stick with that. And I know the answer to the 250,000 question, but I'm not going to do it because it's too much of a risk. I'm going to stick with the 100 grand. I think he's a bit risk averse at times. I mean, the subs against Southampton were brilliant, but we'd won the game. I think when it, like you say, Beth, I think when it's a tight game, he'd rather stick with a tired Bruno or a tired Rashford or a tired Cavani than go for the sub. And I think Ollie's doing really well. And in no way do I think he was really responsible for what happened last night. But he's got to change that, whether he buys a new bench or what. You've got to use your bench in modern football.
It's like, though, when he plays against the big six, he plays it safe then. Do you know what I mean? He's got to kind of figure out a way to inject a little bit of risk into the game, because if you take a little bit of a risk, you don't have to go all out attack and just have no defensive players on the pitch or make loads and loads of changes. But a little bit of risk can sometimes result in reward. And I feel like that's a thing he's really got to learn in his management. He doesn't often take that many risks. I feel like putting Tuanzebe on last night, it was just such a safe option. He doesn't take the risk that's needed. And that's a kind of a criticism I do have for Ollie. But besides that, we have come on so much. We wouldn't expect to be where we are this season. And the board's got a lot of answering to do for kind of our frailties in some aspects. Like, you see Rodri today, he just sits there and he's a proper DM that mops up everything City do and allows other forwards to push on. don't get me wrong, they all do the defensive work as well. Gundogan, Bernardo Silva, they both track back. But I feel like we need that proper presence in the DM role. And obviously we need a centre-half as well, possibly a attacking right-back. And then we're thinking about going all out for going for Sancho or going for Grealish. I feel like where we need to work on is the back line, because we have no trouble scoring goals. We've done it this season with the highest scorers. But defensively, it's just not there for us.
Yeah, Ricky, I mean, that's something I did want to ask you all that, regardless of where this season's going to be. And I personally do think that Ollie's doing a good job. I don't blame him for last night. I think it's people we've spent good money on that have that cost us and should do better, whether that's 1 or 2 players or whether it's 3 or 4. But I certainly look at Man City and like when they didn't have the ball today, they're hunting in packs. They're so energetic, they're tracking back. There is a system. And then when they get forward, there's a system. How many players do you think we need, and what positions would you not what you think is going to happen, but where would you like to see players coming into that team to take us to the next level, to take us to title challenges?
We probably need a few players, Mark. I think. I don't know where to start.
Priority positions first.
I'd like us to change our formation to start with and start playing 4-4. I think we'd be a more solid outfit, and we would. How can I put this? Let me start by saying this. Like you've said, I agree that we've overachieved this season, and we've overachieved not just because of the squad that he's got as he overachieved, but I also think he's been playing the wrong system. Too many attacking players. Now, you might say too many attacking players. I can't remember who said this to me before. Flex said it to me yesterday. Too many attacking players. You've just watched City play Liverpool today. You must be able to see the difference between Salah and Mane and Rashford and Greenwood. Now, I'm not saying Rashford and Greenwood don't track back. They do track back. To me, it's a bit hard to explain, but it just seems more natural to Salah and Mane. I was actually watching it today and clocking it. They're in the left-back spot and forcing the opposition away all the time when City have got the ball, and the same with City's wingers. All I think it is that they've all grown up as wingers. Salah's always played wide. He's never played as a number 9. Mane's always been a wide player. They're actually wide players. Sterling can play up front, but he's more of a wide player. They've got that Bernardo Silva. He plays wide. But Greenwood, really, his best position is centre forward. Rashford has come through the youth ranks as a centre forward. Players do like to play, and they as they mature, they might be able to play in different positions, but they've still got a favourite position, and they've still got a game. When I say a game, that their own game, the way they play, they've still got a game that comes naturally to them. And that Mane and Salah naturally play in those positions. Bernardo Silva and Sterling, they play naturally in those positions, and I don't think it's natural to Greenwood and Rashford. I really don't. So I'd like us to play 4. And I'm not naming names of who we've got to replace. That I've said we've even got players now who defensively would make us stronger. And we are scoring a lot of goals, Beth. You're 100% right. We scored more goals than anyone, but also letting a lot of goals in. So it's a fine balancing act. It is a fine balancing act.
I disagree. I think we can play with that system. I just think you need a better CDM to play in with either McTominay, Pogba, whichever one you're going to play out of the other players there. And I think when Cavani, Greenwood and Rashford play in that front three, I do think Bruno needs to drop a little bit further back into the midfield. So it's a bit more of a compact midfield. And I actually think Greenwood's getting better and better at playing on the right wing. And I thought his overall play yesterday was really decent.
I thought he had a good game. I thought he
was getting back a lot. I thought he was getting back more.
Digne is a very good player. I thought that was a good battle, that was. I would applaud Mason last night, yeah.
He was, and I thought he played really well, and I think he keeps improving in that position. I think Cavani...
He is a striker. I agree with Ricky. He's going to be a striker.
He is going to be, but for the time being, I do think he's our best right winger. I actually do, and I do think Cavani drops back and it works the centre halves as well. If we can get that midfield compact, and you have a pacey centre half to go next to Maguire, so you can kind of afford to push up, but still have someone covering, I do think you can play how Ollie wants to play. He does want to play an attacking system, constantly going at them. That's what he wants to do, getting balls into the box. he's never going to drop Rashford. His idea of this team is playing 4-2-3-1. Rashford on the left. He wants a right winger. We know he wanted Sancho. And he wants a proper striker that's going to break his nose for a header up front. He's got Cavani now. He probably ideally wants Haaland. He can't get every player in the world. But I tell you what, if he gets a proper CDM in there and a proper centre-half, you can definitely play that system. I generally do. And he's obviously got to work on his team shape as well, because the thing is, you can coach Rashford and Greenwood to get back into them positions. You don't have to have always been a winger. I don't think you do. I think you can coach this into the players. And if you can coach that into the players, you've got so much more going forward, but you've also got a good team shape and some defensive work as well. Because I do think Mane and Salah, and I do think Sterling and Foden and Mahrez, I do think they're all attacking players, but the way their defence deals with it and their midfield deals with it allows it to happen. I mean, look at City. They spent so much money before they found Diaz. They've got Stones, they've got Ake, they bought Mangala, for God's sake. They had Otamendi. They've spent so much, but all it takes is that one player for it all to fall into place, and that's what we're waiting for. CDM and centre half, both necessary.
Let me put a question to both of you. If you're not allowed to take into account anybody's age, because you might say, well, he's going to be great in a couple of years or whatever. You're not allowed to do that. If, let's say, we were still, say, a point behind City and still in with a chance, and you was offered for the rest of this season, you can have Salah and Mane on our wings, or you can have Greenwood and Rashford. Who would you take?
Well, I'd obviously take Salah and Mane because they're in better form and they're in the prime of their careers.
Or they're two of the best, right? They're two of the best wingers in the world as well, aren't they?
Or you could take Foden and Sterling, or Greenwood and Rashford. Who would you take?
I'd take Greenwood and Rashford.
I'd take Foden and Greenwood.
Yeah, I like Foden, but I don't rate Sterling that highly. Like,
look, they might become great players. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. But you know, if we want to get to that sort of level, that's the sort of level that we want. I believe Salah and Mane are the better pairing, and I also believe that City have got three wide players that are better than both of our wide players. So you know, we're miles behind, I think.
I like this from Steve Locke. He says, something has to change and we can't play Magaluf forever. If you've never been to Magaluf, I have. It's a holiday resort in Spain where basically you go there, you're reckless, you do things no one else does, and you wake up in the morning with regrets, which pretty much sums up Maguire and Lindelof, really. Reckless, wake up in the morning with regrets, and do things other centre-back pairings don't. So very good, Steve Locke there. But it feeds in nicely. I mean, before we move on, what I think we need, and I think you might have said it, Beth, earlier on in the show. I don't know whether you were talking about it at the back. I think Cavani's a leader. I think Bruno's a leader. And I think it's mad because everyone in the live comments is going to say, but he's our captain. I think we're crying out for a centre-back who's a leader. And as much as I wouldn't bring in Ramos, if we had Ramos, he would be perfect for what we actually need in the defence at the moment. We need a leader in the centre of defence, and we actually have. Our captain is a centre defender, but as I said, that last 10 seconds when that cross comes in, and it's happened lots of times this season anyway. It's not just that. You clear everybody out. Vidic would have cleared everybody out to win that header. He's the best header of the ball in the team, and he's gone missing and played everyone onside. So I think we need more leaders in the team. So I would agree with Ricky. Forget age. I think with Cavani, we've had our eyes open to the fact that if they've got the right mentality and they've got a few years left in them, that team needs leaders in it. We're too reliant on young lads at the moment. You know, McTominay's young, Rashford's young, Martial's still quite young, I think, and obviously Greenwood's very young, Wan-Bissaka's young. Luke Shaw's not particularly young. He's coming into his prime, and we're seeing that. I think that team needs more leaders in it.
I generally think you buy two centre-halves. You get Ramos for the experience, and he's won everything in the game, just like Cavani's had. And you also get the young player, I don't know how you say his name, Koundé? Is that how you say it? Koundé, yeah. And you play them two. You've got young pace, and then you've got a leader in Ramos. He will never drop Maguire. It will never happen. But that's the best thing that football club could do for us this summer. Genuinely is. And I don't see why, of a club of our size, it's not obtainable. Do you know what I mean?
It's weird with Maguire though, because like people say, would you sell Maguire? He's overpriced. That's not his fault. That's the club's fault. And Leicester, fair play. He was never an 80 million centre back. He's a 50 million centre back at best. But he was a candidate for Player of the Month in January, and he played a few games with Bailly. And I think that's why, because I think when he plays with a quick centre-back, he's a totally different player. But when he plays with Lindelof, they're just not a partnership, and they just don't work. And I think most fans know that. But
leader, though, is he a leader? And if we bring in a young centre half, are they going to be?
Well, why has he got his hand? Why has he got his hand up for offside there instead of running after the ball? Like he's playing everybody on. He's looking at the bloody line and he's like this. I'm like, what are you doing?
Why is he lying on the floor while play's continuing? That's another thing I don't understand. It's just all these little things. It just makes me think I don't see that leadership in you. It doesn't make you a bad player, of course. It doesn't. No. Doesn't make you.
It's on the manager, that is. He wasn't captain of Leicester, was he?
He wasn't, and he's not captain of England either. Like
managers made that choice, to be fair. But one choice a manager does have to make is, and I don't know what you think about this. I mean, question 1 and question 2 here. We'll start with you, Ricky. First question is going to be: is the title over? Because some people are saying that it's not over. And question 2: are you concerned that Man City could win a treble? We spoke about this. Liverpool won their first title with Ollie at the wheel, and our treble could go this season with Ollie at the wheel. That's not a great 2 years, even though I think we are progressing. It's just not a nice record to have. We can't stop them winning the title, I don't think. We can't stop them winning the Champions League because we're not in it, as you know. We could stop them winning the FA Cup. Does the FA Cup game against West Ham take on more importance now that the title is, well, it depends whether you think the title's gone, but the FA Cup, everyone seems to think Ollie needs a trophy. This game on Tuesday is it really more important now after the weekend?
Ollie himself has gone on record about saying he wants to get the first trophy under his belt, doesn't he? And he thinks it'll give everyone a lift, and you can take you on to the next level. So for me, to be honest, it was already a vitally important game. This FA Cup game, the Europa League game, it's 2-legged. The FA Cup we're already at. We're at the last 16 stage, aren't we?
Quarter final after this.
Final semi-final. We could need to win 3 games to get to the final.
We've got 2 more games at least, Ricky. Semi-finals in 2 games.
Yeah. So we've got. I wanted us to win the FA Cup anyway, and I already thought it was important. But I do think that look, mathematically, it's not over. You've got to just keep plugging away. Our next 2 games, and I've said this before, it's okay for us as fans to think like this, but it's not okay for the players and the staff and the manager to think like this, because they did it against Sheffield United, they under-rated them. Then it's not okay for them to do it, it's okay for us to do it. We've got Newcastle and West Brom next. I can't remember which way round. They're 2 games where we've got to get 6 points. We've absolutely got to get 6 points and should get 6 points. I've not even looked at other people's fixtures. Hopefully, City might drop a couple of points. Somebody might hold them to a draw between now and then. We've already come to this situation that City are playing that well that everybody, apart from Liverpool, perhaps, is just going to play everybody behind the ball and try and eke out a 0-0 draw. So it might just happen. It does happen sometimes, you know what I mean? So maybe we can win our next 2 games. City might win 1 and draw 1. Suddenly, you just get a glimmer of hope. You're a little bit nearer. So I wouldn't say I've given up hope. I wouldn't say that. But deep down, I don't think we're in a title race.
No, I would love us to make a race of it, but they just can't. They're not winning at the moment, and they'll be 8 points ahead. And what you're asking for is United to win every game and them to lose 3. And I don't think I'm an idiot for saying that that's very, very unlikely. But Beth, your thoughts? Do you think we're still in a title race? And second point being, the FA Cup could be the only way we stop City winning a treble. I mean, they might still win a treble by winning the Carabao Cup, but that's not a treble. The treble is the FA Cup, the Premier League, and the Champions League. Well, 2 of them, it doesn't look like we can stop them. We do need a trophy. Tuesday night, West Ham will fancy it. They're not in Europe either, so they're having a good season. Is it a massive game now?
It's a massive game. I think we've got to win. We've literally got to win because we've got to win a trophy this season. I'm not relying on the Europa League. I'm not really bothered about that one. But the FA Cup, I think we've really got to go full throttle, and we've got to try and win that. For Ollie as a manager, for the players to believe in themselves as a winning team, we've got to go and win that cup. Besides the point, the fact City could win the treble, because that is an extremely high possibility with the way they're playing. And then in the title race, obviously, we're not in the title race anymore. I don't think we are, because last night again proved we're going to concede more points against pacey teams with that defence. We just are. And I genuinely, with the way City are playing at the moment, especially now after beating Liverpool 4-1, their confidence is going to be through the roof. And we all know that you play better when you're on form, when you've got confidence. I don't see them dropping points. I generally don't, because if they're not going to drop points against Liverpool, who are they going to drop points again? I hope that, like Ricky said, they can hold them to a 0-0. But even now, I feel like they've got that flow in the attack that they didn't have a while back. They can get through low block teams. They can get through the space. And I think their team is absolutely world class, and I won't be surprised if they went on and won all these things. I'm just glad it's not Liverpool. I'd rather them win it than Liverpool, obviously. But we've got to win the FA Cup because, I mean, a treble with the Carabao Cup doesn't count. Everyone knows that. So
I think it would be a bloody joke if they win the treble with no fans in the ground as well. I don't think it means as much, but you know, that's my opinion on it.
We've got to win a trophy, and that's just the be all and end all of it. And that'll show progress, I think. Obviously, we can see the progress in the way we play, but it don't mean anything if we've not got any silverware. Yeah,
definitely. Well, that show's gone ridiculously fast because we're
really fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it's gone really fast. It's obviously been a good show. Let me just have a quick check here. Where do you think we're finishing this season? That was the question I wanted to ask, and this is from Luke Townsend. We'll do that one just before we wrap up. So where do you think we're going to finish this season, Ricky?
I would say, I don't think Liverpool are going to stay in the doldrums. They've only got to turn it around a little bit. They walked it against Spurs, and Spurs is difficult opposition. They walked it against Spurs only about a week ago. I think we're going to finish third.
5 points ahead of Liverpool we are at the moment. So you're saying third, yeah?
I think we're going to finish second. I think we've got the capabilities to finish second. I think we'll be quite a few points off City. I think City are probably going to run away with it. And I don't even think the relegation battle's that exciting either. So it's suddenly turned quite predictable. But I think we can get second with the team that we've got. And if we iron out a few errors, then we can definitely get second. And at the end of the day, that is an improvement on last year, isn't it? But you forget about Leicester. Leicester are well in the race, in the race.
I think it's because Leicester dropped it. They bottled it, didn't they, at the end last year? So I think people just are saying, well, they might do that again. But I think we'll finish. I think we'll definitely drop more points because we've got some tough games to come. We've still got to play Man City. We've got to go to Spurs. Got to go to Chelsea, haven't we? But I think we'll finish second. But it depends on what he's. Look, the only thing that I wouldn't be confident about finish second for is because it's like the substitutes thing, isn't it? I can't understand why he doesn't make subs at 70 minutes. So he might play his first team on a Thursday and a Sunday in the Europa League and the Sunday, which will mean we drop points in the league. So it depends what he does with the Europa League. If he has a team that he picks people like Van der Beek and Twansebi and Tellez and people like that in the Europa League, and he keeps a strong team for the league, I think we'll finish second. But I agree with Ricky. We've got to win the next two games just to solidify where we are. Second place and an FA Cup would be really good, I
was literally just about to say that. Thinking about where we were, if you asked at the start of the season, would you take second place in an FA Cup? Absolutely. 100%. Second place, no trophies. It's a little bit like, at least
second place, FA Cup, and Liverpool don't win the league. I think we'd have all bitten your hand off for that.
Liverpool don't get top four. What are the bets on that? I'm gonna looking at the odds on that after this.
The club. Well, if we do get that though, the club have got to give him 2 or 3 players in the summer. They've got to.
They've got to, especially because other teams are definitely going to reinvest. I do think next year it's going to be a hard push again when the teams reinvest. I do think this was our chance, and I do think it's a missed opportunity. But yeah, I do think that's it now. I think City are going to run away with it. I really do.
It looks like Chelsea have got another win, so they're going to get into the race now. They'll only be a point off Liverpool, 6 points off us. Anyway,
I'll be surprised if Chelsea don't get top 4.
I think they'll get top 4. I think they'll get 4th.
I reckon you like Tuchel, Ricky.
Right?
I reckon you like the way Tuchel manages.
I've noticed they've let a goal in tonight.
2 wing backs.
That's 1 goal they've let in 4 games. That's my sort of football. We've just let 3 in 1 game. They've let 1 in 4 games.
I know, but
with their defence as well.
playing exciting yeah, they're playing three at the back, 2 wing backs, and 2 CDMs. Do you know what I mean? That
anyway,
playing it against Sheffield United, but anyway.
Yeah, okay.
Thanks for coming on, Ricky.
You're welcome, mate. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
And thanks, Beth.
Yeah, thank you. See you on the next one.
And thanks everyone for watching. And again, it's a quick turnaround because we're playing Tuesday night again. So it all starts again with Ollie's press conference and build up tomorrow. So if you're staying up for the Super Bowl, enjoy that as well. I'm doing a show for the Super Bowl on the Paddy Power YouTube channel if people want to join me for that. I must be mad. But if you're not, we'll see you tomorrow. Thanks for watching.